Hi, I'm Lou with another episode of My Car Story. And today we have friend of the channel, Frank Troost, and this is his oldest car in the collection. Frank, what did you bring today?
It's a 1948 Studebaker Champion Deluxe.
Let's go right to this one and we'll ask Frank some questions. So this one, well, first of all, Frank, how long have you had this car?
About 10 years.
10 years. And why did you pick this car out of all the cars in the world?
Well, I was at the auction in Auburn, Indiana on Labor Day. I usually go every year, and I spotted this and was immediately attracted to the pale yellow color with the maroon interior. I've always found these cars rather attractive, but I'm really fussy about the colors on cars I buy, and I just love the pastels.
How did you get plate number 1 for this car?
Well, I could give you several stories about it. Actually, I don't think a lot of younger people realize, but it used to be in Illinois, you got license plates every year. You had to get a new one every year, and you had to, it was January 1st. So I like to tell people I got up real early and waited in line, and they gave me number 1, but that would not be the true story. The true story is we had a gal that worked for us whose mother was the housekeeper to the Cardinal of Chicago. He used to have the number 1 plate on his limousine. Finally, I think he felt it was too ostentatious, and he gave it up, and the governor at that time had no problem taking it over. So the housekeeper, the Cardinal gave it to his housekeeper, who gave it to her daughter, who then gave it to me.
And the convertible top. Now this antenna is interesting, and I'll show you that in a second, but notice it's kind of in the half mast, and you don't just pull it up. There's an interesting piece here. Notice the windshield too has a real interesting curvature to it. And then,
it was really only on the convertible that they put the one-piece windshield.
Is that right?
Yes. On the sedans, you still got the two-piece windshield.
Let me ask you, when you're at a car show with this one, what's the reaction?
Well, I don't think, unless there's an older crowd, I don't see any particular reaction. The older people certainly remember these Studebakers and are attracted to it.
But the younger crowd, not so much.
Not so much, no.
Not so much. Let's see what the viewers think on the channel. There's kind of an interesting, I just want to show from this side, there's kind of an interesting curvature to the body. You can see there's somewhat of a bulge in the door. So it's not flat, and while I'm here, we'll take you to the back of the car as well, and we'll show you that.
Well, the design was a big breakthrough from the pre-war styling that all the manufacturers had. So it was much more aerodynamic, a much cleaner, smoother design.
And to open this trunk, this pulls back.
No, that's where the lock
key,
goes.
but it pulls up that way.
Lift up on that.
With the key in it.
No, well, you must have, maybe you locked it. Usually, I never lock it, so.
Okay, so that one's locked, but that's how that would open.
That's right. You turn the key there and you lift up on the hand.
And it looks like you have some bumperettes almost, pieces on the ends of the bumpers.
Yes, that probably was an option.
That was an option.
Yeah, bumper tips or something.
And the real neat tail lights. So while we're back here, let's take a look at our trunk and treats. So here we have our trunk and treats, and well, this one has them all. So right off the bat, we're looking at the 1948. We're actually looking at pretty much the same one we're looking at here. And you can read that low slung new look. You can see there's kind of this almost weather protectant on the car, and here's your convertible top. But let's also notice this one here. So this starts off as a kind of a folding 3-fold flyer. Now obviously showing you that there. And then if you take this and turn this over, you can see the new 48 Studebaker styling. And then as you gently turn this over, it shows you the 3 models here. Now some of these photographs you're going to see repeated. And that's the one we're talking about here today. So this folds together as a three-fold flyer like so. So we have these two, and I want to show you this Studebaker book. Now, to their credit, they did a lot of marketing. You can see there are a lot of ads for this vehicle. Luxury car, but not luxury pricing. America's cost-cutting luxury car. So this was right after the war, and this car presenting the new Studebaker. The pictures here are fantastic of the car. Now again, this was one we've seen. We showed you that. First in style, first in vision, first by far with a post-war car. Just fantastic. Now, Frank, you always do a great job of keeping all of the, look at that, October 48, of all of, how do you find these things?
Well, if the various vendors at different flea markets and things, I thought I was particularly fortunate to find the particular one that you're looking at there. They're all put together. You'll see in the back, too, it shows receipts from when people went to sell their Studebakers later on and how little they got for them.
Wow, $35. Yeah, it's gone up a little in value since then. But like even this, they've been in business together 8 years as Studebaker father and son craftsmen.
I might add that
please.
Studebaker had the highest paid, least productive workforce in the industry. This was towards the end.
Yeah.
They didn't want to take a strike. So they would just knuckle under to the union's demands, and then towards the end, as I say, their workforce was the highest paid, least productive.
Land Cruiser. Everything's wonderful. Everything's a thrill in these fabulous, fine 49 Studebakers.
So the Land Cruiser was their top of the line. It had a longer wheelbase.
I'm trying to pause on each one, so if people would like to get the chance to read them, they can. And I'll tell you, this is a real treat because usually you don't get to have this type of information with the car. So this is, I take a little time on the trunk and treat. And we're being very careful with this one because this one is a fold out. This all folds together, kind of folds together like so.
By the way, you mentioned photographs. I don't think any of those are photographs.
Oh, they're all drawings?
I believe so. They're all artist renderings. They did that well into the 50s, about all the car manufacturers, because they could enhance the appearance of it doing it that way, which with the earlier photography they could not do to the same extent.
Okay. Good to know.
Sometimes also they'd show the cars in these things in colors that were in fact not available.
Oh, really?
Yes, like that bright yellow was not a car color that was available.
No.
So there was a pale yellow like my car is, but that bright yellow would not have been an option.
Well, just to see this artist renderings of these, it's really quite amazing.
You can kind of tell when you look at the people, that they're most likely not photographs.
Got it. And that's the trunk and treats. All right, so Frank, tell me about this tire in the trunk.
Well, usually with my cars, I always like to have 5 matching tires on them. But when I got this car, I'm taking a look at the spare in the trunk, And it appears to me, by its design and age, that's probably came with the car originally, or was an early replacement. Also, the hubcap and trim ring that's on the spare is the correct for the car. In 48, that's what they used. And you can see it wasn't very decorative. And so one of the owners along the way replaced that on that combination on the car and put, I believe, either 1951 or 1952 hubcaps on instead.
And we're back. So you not only have the Studebaker there, but this really cool back window with the split in it.
Yeah, there's a story behind that.
Yeah, go ahead.
When I got the car, it had a old canvas top on it. It had to be 30 years old.
Yeah.
And it had this glass window in it, and I thought, well, surely that was a mistake. They didn't have glass windows then. Somebody probably put it in. And so I contacted the Studebaker Museum, and they have quite an archive of information on every model Studebaker ever made, and they sent me a drawing, and they said that no, it is correct. They did have a glass back window in them, and it is positioned correctly. So that is one of the pluses to the Studebaker. You have the Studebaker National Museum in South Bend, and about any information you ever need, they would have. Plus, the Studebaker Car Club is the second largest car club in the country. So you have people there that can answer about any question. While you're here, you could take a look at the door jamb. The interior light has an interesting feature. If you look,
Yeah, go ahead, show me.
here, the other day I'm looking, why don't the lights come on when I get in the car? Well, whether this is factory or not, I do not know. But they've got this little tab.
Isn't
if you
that
don't
something?
want the lights to come on, if you're at a car show, you can take that little tab, move it over the button, it won't pop out,
Isn't that
and
unique?
that way the interior lights aren't left on. We talked about that antenna, and this was an option, was $6 extra. There's a knob in here.
You can see the
that you
antenna
turn
going up and down.
to put the antenna up and down. And Studebaker offered that on their cars for a long time, which I think is pretty clever. Not a lot to it, but it's very functional. One thing, as long as I'm in here,
Let me show that
take a look when
curvature of the door. Go ahead.
when I close the door, what looks peculiar?
It's all the way up to your shoulder.
That's correct. It comes up really high. I don't know what the short people did driving these cars.
Because you're pretty tall. What are you,
Yeah,
6'4"?
and I've got a long torso. I'm
Yeah.
6'3", but
6'3".
I have a long torso. And I mean, this is...
Right, yeah, this is right there for you.
Plus, the steering wheel is relatively high as well. Although I always thought they used to design the cars, the exterior first, and then later figure out how they were going to get anybody in them. I think that in this age, up through the 50s and 60s, it was all about style. And I think the functionality was somewhat secondary.
Let's take a look at the rest of that interior. And you can see the curvature of that door as I was sharing with you from the body.
Well, if you take a look at the instruments,
Yes.
they don't light up; they glow. Now, I don't know if that's radium or what it is. It's something on them. You put an electrical
Radium.
charge, I think, into.
What do you mean radium? It sounds like something like from a nuclear...
Well, they used to use that, like
Is that right?
watch faces, and so you could see the numbers in the dark.
So you weren't kidding around.
Unfortunately, now it's lost a lot of its glow,
Yeah.
and so it's somewhat hard to make out at night. Why they found it necessary to put that huge speedometer right in the center of the dash, I do not know. It is nice to have a car with full gauges. This car, if you're looking on the dash, can you see the heater there?
Yes. Here.
Well, I'd like you to point it out to me because...
Is this the heater?
No.
That's not
radio
the heater.
speaker. So, in fact, the car has no heater. You know, well, even through the 60s, heaters were optional.
Wow.
A heater was fairly expensive, if you bought a car, you lived in the South, you could very possibly have decided to forego the heater. And when you had a heater, you would see that it's just kind of tacked on under the dash, the controls for it. So it's not a heater delete. It's a it's a heater not purchased.
This is for your vent.
So I would judge the car was from the South originally because it has a radio, which were quite expensive in the day. And if it doesn't have a heater, it was because I think who bought it originally felt they didn't need a heater. So
Let's show that. Let me show just a little bit more. So let's go through. We get our adjustable seat there, but this is kind of interesting too because the H is actually for the hood. Is this the wipers? Double D?
Well, I think the OD is an overdrive.
Oh,
it's an overdrive
okay.
cutout.
OD, and then this is for your top.
Correct.
And I noticed this handle here for your top to unlatch it first.
Right, and it's a
and
power
then our
top.
lights.
So it would have been one of the earlier cars with a power top. It's electric, not hydraulic, which is a little different. And so it works. It's a little slow. It's kind of a heavy top frame for a little electric motor, but it does work.
Let's have you. I'm going to close that vent. Let's have you pop the hood.
Optional turn signals, which
this is optional.
Yes, but it was a factory option. Yeah, turn signals were. I don't know when they became standard, but it was later than 47 on a Studebaker.
Great horn.
So.
Okay, let's pop the hood, shall we? Do we have to pull the hood?
We already did that.
Okay, I already did that.
So we lift that up. We got our prop here. Let's see just where that plugs in. So, better look so I don't drop it. Okay. That's it. So there is our mighty flathead 6-cylinder Studebaker engine producing all of 85 horsepower.
Wow.
I like to tell people for about a block I can outrun this car. So you would find in looking at these Studebakers with 6 cylinders, especially the flathead 6 cylinders, most of them were sold with overdrive. And you really need that fourth gear because otherwise you would struggle to drive this car at 65 miles an hour.
Wow.
But with overdrive, it's fine. You can go out the highway at 65, don't have any problem at all. And it's an electric overdrive. And so to shift it into overdrive, you just lever up on the accelerator and it goes into overdrive. And I believe you can put it in overdrive, not just on top gear, but also on first gear and second gear. So you could end up with a 6-speed.
Wow.
But I only use it for the top gear.
And the 6-volt battery system. Let's fire it up, shall we?
Okay.
And I notice exhaust and everything on one side. So it's got the carburation and the exhaust all on one side.
Well, these cars, Studebaker always exported a lot of cars. So maybe 10-15% of their production was for export. So they would always make these so they could be manufactured in right-hand drive configurations.
Wow, I have to be right up on it. Frank, could you step on the brakes for a second? Go ahead, give it a little rev. Frank, we could shut that off. What a great car. Come on out.
Well, the Studebaker had a number of innovative features. One, they had at little extra cost what they called hill holder. So you could be stopped on a hill going up a hill, and you could take your, if your foot was down on the clutch, you could take your foot off the brake and it would not roll backwards.
Really?
And Subaru offered that in their cars a few years ago on their stick shift cars. I don't know if they still do, but it is kind of a handy feature, and it's a rather simple mechanism. And I think that the option cost was $7 or something. So in the aerial, another thing was unique: a relatively reasonably placed overdrive unit. Studebaker always used to win the mobile gas economy runs. Well, one reason for that is they had all these little peanut engines in their cars for the most part. But secondly, they had that overdrive, and that made a big difference.
So I'm riding with Frank in the 48, and one thing that he had pointed out, which is clear, is you can see my shoulder is right there at the door. I mean, I look like a little kid peeking out this car, but it's a smooth cruiser. Tell me that story about the license plate, Frank. Back license plate.
Well, when I got the car, it actually came from an auction. Hyman had it in his tent.
Okay.
At the Auburn auction, and it came time that it came up for auction, and first I looked it over, and that Mark Hyman was there, and I was asking him a few questions about the car, and he really didn't know anything, and he picked it up somewhere else. So then I'm bidding on it, and someone else is bidding against me with no hesitation. Well, I finally kind of went over near where he was, and the guy was half in the bag. So here I'm bidding on someone that's only half with it, and I thought, I'm never going to win in this bidding contest.
Right.
So I just let him have it, and I knew he was a dealer, and then I bought it from him later.
There you go.
And then after I had it, I thought I wanted to put the license plate on the back, and there was absolutely no place to mount a license plate. And I said, well, that just can't be. This car had to have a plate mounting spot originally. So I tracked down the owner that Hyman got it from, the dealer, and he said that he bought it. It had been in a museum, and he used to just trailer it around, and he had no need to put a license plate on it. So I did mention to him that, well, how did the chips get in the windshield? And he said, well, I always trailer that on an open trailer. So
that's how it happened.
Yeah, that's how he had some chips. They're minor chips. Nothing I would endeavor to replace the windshield for that. Studebakers were prone to rust, and they had quite a reputation for that. This car, however, never had any rust. If you get underneath it, it's as nice as it is on the top. And if metal is ever rusted, usually then it's kind of pitted.
Yeah.
And unless someone goes to a lot of trouble to fill all the pits, you're gonna be able to see that. And the underbody of this car, there's no pitting. So I feel it was never rusted.
A solid ride for sure.
Yeah. Now Studebakers generally run a little warm, and that would be true with this. It's okay, except like I put it in a parade once when it was about 85 degrees. That didn't work so well. I was about halfway through, and I had to pull over. I've had other Studebakers too, and that would often be an issue. I think that running a little warm, and then the other issues. Sometimes you have with Studebakers, they tend to leak oil.
Oh, really?
Yes.
But this one is smooth, as we can see, and what a treat to get this one and take it out. Frank, always a pleasure hanging with you. Thanks so much for being on My Car Story.
My pleasure.